Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. I'm perceiving so much fear when I talk to people, when I communicate, and just from the feeling. It is also pushed, it is promoted with all the news carefully done in a way to increase the fear. Fear is eating up our energy if we hold on to. Makes everything huge. Even little things become big and difficult. If our energy is eaten up by fear, what can we do about it? It's so easy to join the current. There are so many possibilities one can be very justified to be afraid of. But of course we know fear is not improving anything. It's not helping any situation. It's just draining away our own energy and makes everything hard and difficult in our life. So when we become aware that we are in fear. Ravi, your microphone is open. Can you please close it? You're slightly interfering. When fear comes, when fear comes and disturbs us, then we can just tune into the fear, get overwhelmed by the fear, be swept away by the fear, and then our energy is really drained away. Or we can see, okay, the fear comes. After all, it's an emotion. It comes like a wave. And if we are not getting overwhelmed by it, if we are capable to see it, and then objectifying it like this, feel what it is doing to our experience, observe how it is affecting the body, how it is getting the body all tense, and then consciously relax. Then the fear will not necessarily immediately go, but we are not entertaining and feeding it. So then it will come as a peak and it will go like a wave. If we are holding on to, if we are not aware, then we cannot do anything. But if we are aware that the fear comes, we can do something. Often people are not aware until they are totally terrified. Then they become aware, oh, there is fear. But if we are a bit alert and see, okay, there is so much fear about. It's so easy to join in the current. It's being pushed by all the stuff that one is confronted with, one hears in the news. So it's good to be alert about fear, not be afraid of the fear. If we are afraid of the fear, then invariably we are victims when it comes. No, just be aware, it's there, it's present, it comes quickly. And if we are alert like this and see it coming, and observe it and detach from it by observing. See what it is doing in the body, see what it is doing energetically, see how the mind has the tendency to go into loops and build up terrible scenarios. When we can observe all this in the present moment, then we become aware, oh yes, but there is the observation. So there is an aspect here that is totally unaffected by it. And turning the attention back to that, our energy is not getting wasted by emotions like this. Otherwise, it's like a whirlpool. It's sucking and sucking and sucking. Our life force is going, and we are just worn out without doing anything. But we need not go that way. We can see the fear and objectify the fear, and then it doesn't have any power. Then it's just an experience. It comes, it's there, there's a peak, it goes. Then it's not harmful. You just have to be alert. Not out of fear, simply because it makes totally sense. It makes totally sense that we stop losing our life force unnecessarily. And then it is here, available for our experience in the present moment, to fill this space with joyousness, to fill this space with creativity. Then we are alive. If that vital force is not drained away by emotions like this, then we are alive. And if we keep the attention in the present, we become aware it's a continuous source of creativity, of beauty. Not necessarily that we have to do something about it all the time, about this creativity. Just be aware of the potential that is here. If we get lost in the emotions, if we get lost and being sucked into those waves, and then invariably start in our mind to build up all kinds of scenarios where that could happen, that most probably are terrible, terrible, then that energy is not there, and it's very difficult to become aware of that pool of energy, of consciousness, of love, of creativity and beauty. It's worth the travel to be just alert. Alert of what is going on in our experience in the present moment. Learn not to get pulled into all those draining emotions, but not fight with them, not try to control them. Let them come, let them be there, observe them, let them go. And so they do no harm. They come, they go, and they leave no trace. This alertness, we just have to remind ourselves again and again, okay, bring the attention back, be here, be now, be conscious, be consciously alive, be alert. And the more we are doing that, the more we are touching directly that source, that basic ground where the experience emerges. And then all that is going on in the world is not more capable of making us afraid. So not be alert because we are afraid of losing our energy, simply because it makes sense. And the more we consciously start to experience it, the more it comes automatically, joyously, without having had to another reason. But this is the most natural way of existing. So never mind that in the world there is so much fear. Let's not contribute to it. In contrary, if we are not getting sucked into it and instead of that radiate something beautiful, then we may also help others not to get so easily overwhelmed by the fear and similar destructive emotions. Okay, my friends, I leave the subject and I'm addressing you. Yeah. Is there anyone who would like to come in and talk? You are welcome to do so.
Hi.
Hello, Leora.
I listened to what you spoke now, and I also want to ask something about perception. About what you spoke now, what came up to me is being worn out. Well, yeah, being worn out actually is, I think, what you spoke about, the loss of energy, really.
Right.
So I keep telling myself, reminding myself about connecting and concentrate. At the same time, there is a sense of not being connected, but not to the connection you are talking about. It's more somehow that there's no ground under my feet. Like everything is falling apart. Everything is here in Israel, but as you always say, all over the world, but each place has its problems. Everything I could trust as a person who lives in this place is falling apart. Everything, really, everything. Health, ensure everything. So, yeah, I don't know how to express it. It's in a way, it's strange because I do feel as if I think I said it before. I feel from moment to moment, really. I live from moment to moment, like when there is a severe sickness or like something that is really threatening my life. Yeah, maybe I just want to say that it's really difficult.
Yes.
Really difficult. Actually.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it seems like I can cope. I mean, I have the tools, can I say? I have the practice, and I can cope. But I want to cry to mommy and
Yes.
yeah.
Nothing wrong doing that. But you don't have to think the mommy is far away out there. That source we can always call to, cry to, confess into, ask for help, is always here, is always present. So if that mood comes of being a little kid, of wanting to cry to mommy, then fine, do that, but not with self-pity, not destructively, but uh, open to that source where there comes help, because there is something that is not affected by all that is happening. There is something that is always full of joyousness, and crying to that, calling to that, asking for help is one way of connecting with it.
Connecting with this that is not affected,
Right.
which what we speak almost every meeting. So my question also about perception is very elusive somehow. Also specifically now when things are moving so fast,
Yeah.
somehow events and so there's perception, like perception happens every second, every minute, every, I don't know how often. And there is a constant change, right? There is constant movement, constant change. So perception is the nature of the mind, right? Of the brain. I mean, we can't live without. It's nothing that I do when perception comes. It's the nature. Is it right?
It's the nature of consciousness, not of the brain.
Of consciousness.
Right.
Of consciousness.
The brain is, of course, an instrument that is necessary in this human form to perceive the way we perceive, as we are perceiving through the senses, through these human senses.
Yeah, okay. So I seem to have lost this sense of perception.
What do you mean by
It's
that? I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, but because there's so many events also with the dog recently, and perception, it like comes and right away it goes, it changes.
Yes, that's its nature.
That's its nature.
Well,
But
the content of perception is changing all the time, continuously, always. What we are
unless we
perceiving.
hold unless we hold on to, unless it becomes very fast, it becomes into a solid opinion, or yeah.
Well, that is in the mind. But the perception, I mean, let us be clear what you are talking about. Perception is usually mainly used for sense experience. You feel, you smell, you touch, you taste, you hear, you perceive these things. And have you used perception more in a mental way, how we are seeing things, like our attitude? Is that what you meant?
I realize recently, for the last 2 weeks, I've been looking into it, like investigating, and I thought, that this is what I used to do. But somehow I feel it's gone, that I don't do it any longer.
You don't do what?
Catch on and create, and as you described it, make it into opinion and attitude also, maybe. Yeah,
Yes, right.
yeah.
So you're talking about mental perception, not about the sense perceptions. And then,
Okay.
yes, and what you're saying that usually when you are taking in the stuff, immediately you started to form opinions. And of course, with our opinions, we have all these boxes and stand in judgment. This good, this bad, this better, this not so good, this is terrible. And now you say you don't do it anymore so much.
I haven't chosen not to do it. I feel a bit lost, but stable. It's strange. Probably it's a result of what is happening, really. It's very strange because I am grounded.
Mhm.
I am grounded. At the same time, I feel sometimes like a leaf, in the wind. Not sometimes, rather often.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I just like very spontaneous, I am very spontaneous more than ever. And my mood is also unstable. I can, yeah, become very sad and cry, and then happy and full of life and
yeah,
very creative, very
yeah.
creative. Something very alive, very alive.
And you just want to know why this is happening like this, or actually, what is your question about perception?
Yeah, if you can answer, yeah, if you know why it's happening. I I think I think it's a result, as I said before, of the situation, really. But I don't know, maybe you know something else. Maybe you can say something more about it.
Of course, the situation is destabilizing, and so it has the effect, it's destabilizing all the securities people have constructed in their mind. And that has certainly a connection with what you are describing, but also that you are not, if somebody is destabilizing but doesn't have a ground, then it becomes a very terrible experience. Then
Mm.
their reality falls together, their reality falls apart, and then the result usually is sheer terror in people. So the fact that things are destabilizing externally may contribute, that your usual way of immediately consciously or unconsciously putting everything in place and having there this kind of solid world ID, world perception, and then suddenly it doesn't function like this, and that the fact that you are not just getting swept away by terror, that means that, yes, you have learned that in tough situation, instead of just being totally overwhelmed, that you learn to turn to something solid that is there, that is not affected. Sometimes in the mind you may feel like lost, and then comes the feeling like crying out, like crying to mama. But there's nothing wrong. Let that cry happen, but then connect. Then if we are not crying and feeding self-pity, but in one way just opening up to that, then you become aware something is very solid and not affected. And obviously you are getting better in connecting with that, even if things falling apart, and you may experience things that previous would have made you very afraid, and now you are not swept away by fear.
Yeah, I am not swept away by fear. I experience fear every day. There's like this, my body, my nervous system really gets shocks here and there. but it doesn't become like ongoing anxiety or yeah,
Right.
like
So,
yeah.
right, then don't don't worry when the old world perception is falling to pieces.
No,
No.
it's strange.
Yes, it's strange because we are used to it and get a sense of security out of it. But it's a false security. It's a security that we have created along with our creation of our reality. And then when that falls together and we are getting terrified, then of course it becomes a terrible experience. But if we are learning not to be terrified and just, okay, then let's just watch how it is going on, where it is bringing me, then actually it opens the possibility to get a much more profound and vaster experience.
Yeah. That I can see on very, very practical levels
Yes.
with my children, with yeah, very practical. Okay. Yeah. That that was really deep. Thank you for your patience to help me to figure out what I've been trying to say. Yeah.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Ariel, thank
Hari
you.
Om. Is there anybody else who would like to talk?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Nelly.
I yeah. I want to share. Recently, I felt some. I watched some feeling inside me, very safe. I felt myself very safe and very present, and nothing special was just I was doing something in the kitchen and Dial was sitting nearby doing something else. And I suddenly felt that I'm here now and that I'm safe. It was very beautiful to feel it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in my childhood. And another thing I noticed then when I saw or do something with my hands, like knitting or something like this, I again feel something like this safe condition, like this feeling of safe. Yeah, I remember like that was in my childhood, this feeling, and it just like I return in this space. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it's very beautiful. I'd like to stay there.
Yeah.
Because then some thoughts they often come in my head, and very often when I do something, one thing, thoughts in my head, they hurry me. I should do this and that. And yes, it drives me away. I try to come back in this here now, but this process is really not easy. Yeah, not quickly. Yes, but it goes on.
Yeah. Actually, the process basically is easy, but it may not always have an effect also quickly that we would like. That's the thing. That's our challenge. That actually you cannot so just out of the blue do that, to just be stable in that space. that you are describing. But you can put the attention in the right direction and connect with that space. And then if we are doing that, and we are doing that again and again, and open up, then we are doing what often I said, we are making ourselves available. And then sometimes it just happened. Like you, when you were in the kitchen busy with something, you didn't think you should now get into that space that you feel safe. It just happened. But it happened because you are making yourself more and more available by consciously turning the attention in that direction. But then when it has come and it has gone, then don't think, what did I do wrong? Why did it go away? It came as a moment of grace. And then after that, the old habits came back, and it's clear, okay, there is some more work to do. But you can be inspired by the memory. Not in the sense that you desperately try to get back the experience. That in itself can become an obstacle. But just be inspired by the experience. It gives you a taste, and then it makes you more motivated to bring the attention back and put it in that direction. And as we are doing that, and doing that not cramped, but more and more relaxed and playful, then this is the best invitation that such moments are happening more often. Sometimes staying longer, but it doesn't lie really in your hands to decide how long it stays when it's there. It's not that you did something wrong and then you slipped out of it. It's just something that is beyond personal control. As a person, we can just make ourselves available as good as possible, and that's what you are doing by consciously catching the attention and bringing it back in that direction.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Werner. I try do it when I remember to come back. Yes,
Right.
again. But I'm amazing how strong this habit in my head. And I remember when it to grow very strong when my daughter was small, and I was alone with her, and I wanted, for example, to go to the shower, and I went and was afraid, what if she wakes up and cries and I don't hear, and all this fear, it became more with more situations and more thoughts, and it became more and more reasons why I should be afraid of this, of that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I see this is like it accumulated so much, and always this habit to do something, and at the same time thinking, what if something happens? What if she wakes up? What if someone comes? Or I don't know, whatever. So this habit, yes, I got it, this habit now. I learned to let it go. Yeah.
That's it. That's what we can do. Habits have their force, especially if certain things we have been repeating again and again and again without being quite aware that we are doing it, but we just had repetitive situations and we repeated the way we reacted emotionally to it. Then those habits, they have their own power. And even if you sometimes so consciously step out of it, like in that experience that you described before, then after that, when that goes away, the old habit jumps in again and wants us to function in the old way. for the mind, that is lazy, that doesn't want things to change, that it wants to pull us always to repeat things in the same way, because that's the most familiar. So don't worry that these habits are there. Everybody has them, but being aware of it and then learning not to be pulled into things that we don't want simply out of habit, that is the way of letting go of them.
Yes, thank you, Werner. And I have one more question, if it is okay.
Yes, sure.
I just want to ask, when we talk about meditation, we mean that this is a condition to be here now. But when I find some translation, what does meditation in Russian? I found that this is it was translated like deep reflection or deep thinking, and I just surprised. Why?
Actually, the word meditation is often used like that people say, I'm meditating about something, meaning I have a subject I think about, I contemplate, I want to go deeper into the mysteries of that thing. But that's not how we are usually using the word here. But meditation is the attempt to bring the attention back and get rooted in that silence, not to think about something particular.
Okay, thank you, Werner.
At least for me, that's what I mean when I talk about meditation. Then these other things, I mean, people can be philosophical and say they meditate about the subject and think and think and think and think and try to sort of understand certain things and say that's their meditation. Okay, that's not what I mean with meditation. Then there are the other types of meditations that you have a certain thing to do and have to be very concentrated, like doing visualizations. Like the Tibetans, they are doing a lot of visualizations. And then the old lamas who have been doing that for a long time, they develop such a concentration power that they can have visualize images with a main deity and with so many different deities and in very detailed manner. That is a tremendous concentration exercise, and certainly it's helpful, but also that is not what I mean when I talk about meditation. When I talk about meditation, then I mean one way or another catching the attention and consciously connecting with the essence.
Okay, I see, Werner. Thank you very much.
You're
Hari
welcome.
Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Of course, that happens everywhere. As long as we are using words, then people are using words differently. And then also some teacher use certain words and then another teacher use the same words but mean something else. And so often a lot of confusion can come simply because words are tools that are being used and they are not always used in the same way. But then if there is something important and we are opening up the heart to the essence of what is meant with it, not so much thinking about it, then also words can be a good bridge to help us to connect. Even if many times words are creating confusion, they can also be helpful. So we keep talking. Is there anybody else who would like to come? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Daniel.
Recently, I was talking with my friend, He's a new meditator. He did only one course Vipassana, and
Yeah.
he trying to continue practice, but he said he's a very intellectual type of people. He said, my thoughts so important to me. When I try to focus on respiration or on the body sensations, still thinking process is very strong. And even he shared to me once on the course, he was so frustrated that he unable to feel the body or respiration, that he just start counting breaths. And
Yes.
he was counting it until maybe 1000. He said it was my biggest achievement, just counting the breaths, nothing else I can do. So what do you think I can advise to the people who is very intellectual, who thinking process is very important? As you usually said, for emotional people is the bhakti practice of believing to God, for example.
Yeah.
And what for intellectual people you advised?
Right, but there is not now an advice that I can give, and that is after that fitting for all the intellectual people, because intellectual people are very different from one another. It's not that anyone who is intellectually inclined after that functions in the same way, but I mean, for example, your friend who said that he did a great thing. He found a way how to keep connected, even if the other practice that has been taught to him in the course and offered, and he doesn't feel that affinity. And after that, just sitting there and counting his breaths is certainly a valid way for him to connect and to be here. But you cannot say because it worked for him, now you can say it for intellectual people do that. Because others may not have an affinity of doing that. Generally, more intellectual inclined people approach what we would say in India the jnana approach, that you study the mind, you study the processes, you try to understand as good as you can. You can understand the process. You can learn to understand the functioning of the mind, and then not stay on that level of understanding, but by understanding we can see how we are creating obstacles, and through the intellectual understanding after that also do it. I mean, for some people everything goes first really through the brain computer. If there is not just that work first, that they feel it makes sense, then there is no motivation. And so some intellectual people, they like to study the scriptures and in that way feel connected more, but it's also a danger that one gets absorbed on that level and finds it very interesting and just wants to read more and more scriptures instead of using the study of the scriptures to become more introverted, more conscious in the present. So whether you are more or less intellectual, that is always the thing that is the most important. That whatever we are doing, it helps us to become alert, conscious, here now, to connect. And if, like in your friend's case, counting his breaths is a way to do so, then this is a valid way. But if you say this to somebody else, they don't feel like doing so because the heart doesn't respond. Self-inquiry is helpful. Who am I? What am I? That also the intellectual person, instead of always analyzing and trying in that way to somehow get control of the situation, that they start to rather ask the question, but who is thinking all this? Who is having the habit of processing everything in the brain? Who am I without all that process? What am I? So that is certainly a way you can catch on the intellectual level and then direct it in the good direction.
Okay, Werner, I will tell to my friend your advices. And what is generally Jnana Yoga? What you mean? The Krishna was talking about 4 yogas, and one of them Jnana Yoga.
Yes.
So what is practically now, in what kind of religion it using, and what practices or what books they reading this Jnana Yoga?
Jnana Yoga is what I have been talking about now, just that the self-inquiry is an aspect of Jnana Yoga. Then you can go about it in the Hindu religion, in the Hindu tradition, not so much the Hindu religion, but the Hindu spirituality, that the Jnana Yoga approach is that you start with studying books. You study the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and maybe the Brahma Sutras, all books that are meant that they catch the intellect and gradually help it to detach from all the attachments and bring it back to the source. But it's not that you can study books, and the more books you are studying, then the more self-aware you are. It's just that the one who's studying the book still has the sincerity to apply it in his daily life from moment to moment, and not just to get an intellectual kick out of studying the book, because then it's defeating its own purpose. If
Okay, I
if
see.
somebody asks you what is a good book to read, for somebody who's inclined like this, then tell them to read the Yoga Vasishta. It's
Okay.
Jnana Yoga, but not so dry, like so structured, chok, like it's usually taught. It's put in stories, but it's basically always coming to that clear Jnana essence.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Okay, okay. As far as I understand, part of Jnana Yoga can be practice of deep understanding that I'm not the body and I'm not the mind. And if it's practically applying, then person have a chance through the intellect get some detachment from thinking process, from the body desires, whatever. Mhm.
Right, that
Okay.
is one traditional approach. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, just detaching. It's not an explanation of what you are. It's just one way of, in a way, a technique to make the attention subtler and then become aware of here. And then they give at the end maybe the answer, you are Brahman. But then if one is satisfied and starts to analyze and explain Brahman, then it's already gone again. Then Brahman is then just that word for that mystery that you're also touching, because this is also the jnana approach, to simply ask, who am I? You're touching that same essence without going through the whole process I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. But yes, that's part of the traditional jnana approach.
Okay, Werner, thank you. Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Wish him well, your friend.
Yes, Hari Om. Yes, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to talk?
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Andreas.
Can you talk about striving in meditation? My impression is that it's getting better when I stop striving completely.
Mhm. Right. There is always that question between making effort and just be and relax. And some traditions are very much into making effort. And others say, no, effort doesn't help you, doesn't bring you very far. And it's both. Of course, we don't need to make an effort in order to create reality. Reality is here, is now, it's there. There is no effort needed for that. We don't need to make an effort to become the self. You are the self. You are that divinity. It's not the result of an effort. Now, we have grown up in a world where we learned from childhood to make efforts all the time. Sometimes for reasonable things and sometimes for less reasonable things, but efforts are being made and it becomes such a habit that people are not aware how much effort they are making just by way of thinking all the time. It's a tremendous work, but it goes on unconsciously out of habit. And then when we try to detach from the continuous flow of thoughts, then basically it's just to let go and relax. But for somebody who has not done that, it's not easy to just say, and okay, I'm relaxing from my thoughts, and then one detaches from that. And so there comes in that we have to make an effort. An effort is not to create something, the effort is simply, the striving is simply to be aware, to inspire oneself, to be alert and to become aware. Oh, there, I'm off. I'm already again off everywhere else except here and now and being conscious. And there, the effort is to catch the attention and bring it back. And sometimes for some people, it's helpful to do that with a strong, willful effort. But then in between, those people also have to relax, otherwise they explode and become angry and don't want to have anything to do with it anymore. I think in the beginning, one has to push more and make more efforts, strive more, because the habit is so strong to always slip off with the thoughts that it's not easy to just be and relax and be in the present. And so it feels like a tremendous strive. But even for a beginner, it's good to do that a moment and then learn to relax, not to make effort. And then be aware, okay, got me again completely, and then make an effort to bring the attention back and then learn to relax. And as we are continuing, the rule of thumb is that striving is less and less necessary. There are some warrior people that just go their whole way, concentrating, striving, concentrating, striving, concentrating, striving, and if one is equipped with a tremendous willpower, he may pull it through, and eventually the whole castle breaks down, the castle that the mind has created. But this is for very few people. Most of the people, this becomes too painful, too much of a continuous tension, and so it's much more advisable. Okay, make little efforts when you become aware. It's just turning, bring the attention back, but then learn to relax. And as we are going on, it's becoming more and more to just consciously relax, consciously be in the present, and then in spite of that, be focused when relaxing, not relaxing and okay, I relax and dream away. I relax and I'm here now.
In meditation, I seem to have an idea how I can apply that, but daily life, it's still, I need a lot of striving to remind myself to come back, and immediately I'm gone again.
Well, then there in your daily life, there is nothing wrong to make a bit that effort to tell yourself, I want to remember. And then when you remember, then go for it instead of sort of remembering and pushing it away. Okay, here now, I take the trouble to catch my attention, stop the dream where I'm busy with, and turn the attention back to that conscious existence that is prior to the dream. That feels now for you, as you have been doing meditation for a long time, it comes quite effortlessly in meditation, but not so much in daily life because you didn't so much try. You did your meditation and then had done your duty, and then you could forget about it. And maybe now you can start more also to apply that and do a bit that striving, make that effort. It's not a tremendous effort. You can do it playfully. Just remind yourself, hey, come on, be here, be now. Remember, intend to remember. And then we may have big gaps where there is not really a conscious moment, and we are going on in our old usual habitual way. But then when then comes the memory back, and at that moment it needs a little effort. It's not a big effort, but it needs a little effort to have then the courage at that moment. Okay, right here now, I turn the attention back consciously, connect in the midst of whatever is going on and relax. And then it's not a tremendous effort, but it needs an effort to counteract the habit of always doing the opposite.
Like the kind of environment that I'm in seems to be very helpful. Like a couple of days ago, I was sitting at a very quiet, small lake in a beautiful nature, and that happened just, I relaxed just by itself and started to be aware. But in like, if the environment is busy, like in India, it makes me neurotic, and I get completely overwhelmed by thoughts and fears and whatever.
Right. Well, choose beautiful, helpful environments that as much as you can, but then still we'll have to pass time in our life, in our professional life, where it's not so helpful, and we can learn that even if the environment is not equally inspiring, to just be there in harmony and peace, that we can more and more become aware that actually even there there is that essence that is always like this and not affected by all that rumble that is going on all around.
this striving till the castle breaks down, was that your way?
Not so much. I mean, I tried from time to time, periodically. I tried again and thought, now I'm fed up. I'm just going with my will force. But then I became aware of the relatively short time. I can't continue like this. It's driving me nuts. I'm getting angry. I know that there has people, some yogis that just were equipped like this, and they could just go on and on and on. And for me, I tried from time to time to use that raw willpower directly, but had to capitulate and say, no, I can't do that. It's just driving me nuts. But the will came in by just continuing. There, that was the level of the will, but not so much directly using the will in my meditation. Sometimes I was just desperate, and I said, "No, I have to somehow break through the walls or something," and tried. And then I became aware. Instead of becoming quieter, I started to become more and more restless. And if I insist, if I desperately try to continue, then I sooner or later could have become quite unbalanced. So it was clear, all right, I can use that little drops at the time, but not on and on and on. It was learning to be conscious and more relaxed. But the willpower was necessary that I kept on doing so.
Okay, I have to figure out how much willpower I have to use from myself too. Because yeah, sometimes I don't even, sometimes I feel I can do it, and sometimes I know where the willpower is, and sometimes I don't even find it somehow.
Yeah. Sometimes one feels, oh, it just doesn't work. Huh? Right, but you can inspire yourself, and what helps if we can learn to go about it in a rather playful way. Oh, got me again there. I was again off completely, but right now, here, now, I connect, relax. And as the experience comes easier also in those circumstances, along with that comes also more the motivation to continue with that. Shall we leave it at that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to talk? You are welcome to come in. Just the last aspect that we touched with Andreas, I can go into that a little more. We are equipped with willpower. What is that willpower? Willpower is that capacity to direct the attention on an object, on something, and without getting all the time pulled away in other directions. But then the tendency is, when one is consciously using will, that we are getting all tense. physically, energetically, emotionally, intellectually. That is, one is using a lot of tension to somehow keep the willpower up. And as long as it is like this, then there is a limit how much we can use the will. Sometimes using will, even if it's a bit tense in our daily life for practical things, may be perfectly valid. It's an equipment that we got. But it's something that we usually using and then we relax. Because except somebody who has learned not to do so, the general tendency is with will immediately we get all tense on all the levels. And if we keep on holding on to that tension, then it becomes very painful. And persons can become very destructive if they still keep on holding on, willfully wanting something, be it in the spiritual story or in the outer story, the mechanism is the same. I want something, and then if it doesn't work, and I use the will more, and it doesn't work, and I use the will more, it doesn't work, then people can become very destructive just because simultaneously with that tension, there is the tendency to build up a frustration. And so meditating with pure willpower is not there for many. There is a story of a yogi who started and he decided he just goes with the will and he kept on with willpower, going deeper, deeper, on and on with his will, and within a year he found himself quite transformed. But very few people are equipped like this, that they are capable of doing so. This man had already a preparation without being aware of it, that he was capable of relaxing in you while using the will. There is a possibility that we can keep the will focused if we consciously start to relax, if we become aware how strong the tendency is while using the willpower to get all cramped up. That I want something and grinding the teeth and everything is cramped. If we can see that, and if we can learn to detach and to relax, and even if we use the will not being so fixed, it has to manifest now, it has to manifest now, but just using the willpower, then one can use willpower at extended stretches without getting into destructive moods. Then actually it becomes an extremely powerful tool that can bring about anything. Now, in our spiritual approach, we cannot just relax and think things are going to happen, because the mind is just off and dreams, and there we go on and stay in our little bubble of conscious experience. The habits are so strong that we don't get around of using the will to some extent. That first, that there is a decision, I want to get out of that bubble. My experience cannot satisfy me if I keep on just turning round and round in the same circles, getting a little kick here, getting a little kick there, becoming aware. It cannot make me happy. There comes that yearning. I want to go beyond it. There we use the will. Okay, I'm starting to make steps. But then when learning to catch the attention, learning to be more conscious, it's a matter of will to remind ourselves, hey, come on, don't always go away. And sometimes for short moments, we can use the will, willfully pull the attention to the present, but then we have also to learn to let go. The will becomes then more the instrument to help us, to just give us the courage not to give up, to go on step by step, day after day, walking on that same path. It's a path that is not a path because it doesn't lead anywhere. There is no goal. You are the goal. But the habit to be in our attention so completely away from that goal that is already reached, it looks like it's a path on which we are walking and progressing. And in the beginning, it needs again and again a willful push. Hey, come on, don't just slip in the old habits. It's worth the trouble. I see that I cannot be happy living the way I have been living. So we have to make that effort. And there is willpower involved. And in the beginning, when we start to try to meditate, often there's an effort just to stay somewhat focused. Then it's good that we learn to relax. And it's more a matter of awareness than willpower. Of just learning to become aware what really goes on. And the more we become aware and see the folly of how the mind is working, the folly of how we are creating our own pain, our own suffering all the time, that in itself will create enough motivation that we detach from that more and more. But then comes always the period, oh, I don't feel like, and there the willpower is needed to just give us the necessary push not to give up, to keep going. And to quote a phrase from Nisargadatta Maharaj, and the successful few are those who have continued. Right. Then there comes the moment when can use willpower more constructively, directly, be it in concentrated meditation or be it for anything, that we can focus the willpower because we have learned to relax. And if we relax and use the willpower, there is not that tension building up that is eventually becoming destructive. But then the will can become very powerful and a wonderful tool, both subtly and on this external level. All right, I stop bubbling away about it. Is there anybody who would like to say something? You're welcome to come in. There is Andreas again. Hoi.
To get my thoughts straight, like I think I get all uptight and tense if I use my willpower without noticing how I feel and how what it is doing to me right now. Like
Yes.
sometimes I really forced myself to meditate in the beginning, and I got really depressed and tense.
Yeah.
And so is it a good way and on the other hand, I think I should use that's the one extreme that I should avoid. And I think the other extreme is that I should avoid is like following just my likes and dislikes and waiting till I feel completely happy with it, till it almost comes to myself
Right.
without any effort.
Right.
Is that the other? Yeah.
Right,
maybe
we can go on indefinitely. If we just follow our likes and dislikes, then some people think I just have to leave my tendencies and then they disappear by themselves. But actually, most of them, they just become stronger instead of disappearing by themselves, or then they branching out and developing new tendencies on top of that. But then people are different and each one has to find a healthy middle, which is natural and healthy for that. Don't be just a dreamer who hopes that eventually things are falling in place all by itself, and then you don't have to torture yourself and become an ascetic that is forcing yourself into a path that is not natural. And between the two extremes, there is quite a space. And people fitting in individually, each one has in a way to find for themselves the healthy, natural balance between the two of relaxing and forcing.
what about the finding a good environment? Because this makes a lot of difference to me. If I'm in a supportive environment, it's much easier than when I'm in an environment where nobody else is thinking about meditation or is aware of it.
Sure. As I said before to you, by all means, if you can choose a helpful environment, then do so. But you can also do so when you find by the circumstances put into places where you are less inspired by the place. But as much as it is possible, by all means, find a beautiful place, find a peaceful place, find a place that lives and inspires you. Sure, simply you don't have to make it totally dependent on that.
Okay.
When the first Zen master came to America, he was not known. He didn't have any finances, and so he got a very cheap room, right, sort of half under a railway, a railway line, and every now and then, on and on, that was just shaking up the place. So he accepted the situation and was doing his satsang there, even when it was half of the time, boom, 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 like this. You can also do so, and if the situation forces you, then we can learn to do it in no matter what circumstances. But if it's possible to find a place, if somehow it's given us to find a nice place that we can do so, by all means, then choose that nice place. But not obsessively, I have to find a nice place, and I have to make this in an excuse of not looking at yourself. Be open that you and nice places find each other, and then happy when that happens. And when it's not happening, then you can also accept, all right, now the circumstances are less favorable, but still I connect. You are what you are, no matter the circumstances.
What was the name of the Zen master?
I don't know. I just heard the story that the first Zen master, I don't know which Zen master it was. One American who is supposedly also has become then a Zen master told that story. That maybe it was the first of his line or the first ever, I don't know. But that for a long time he was living there, and then gradually people would come to him, and then eventually they could find a place in a nice place. But until then, he was sitting there doing satsang, being shaken by the trains that are going there all the time.
Okay, Yeah, that's a
Alright.
good simile for me.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a little more time. If anybody likes to come in and say something, you're welcome.
Yeah, I would like to say something to share from my experience. That for me, meditation was never about relaxing.
Uh-huh.
I somehow, I've never really seen the connection, even though nowadays it's kind of promoted, like mindfulness equals relaxing. And meditation at all became mindfulness nowadays. And I would like to hear your opinion about it, but I'm not sure you have the time now. But it's a question for me. But I just wanted to mention a few things. That first of all my practice was always I was surrounded with people. There was a sangha. I used to go to retreats, many retreats, and then to sangha here, like in Jerusalem where I lived. There was a group. We used to meet every week, and that was very, very helpful. And actually, for many years, I haven't been practicing on my own. Maybe I have here and there, but not a lot. And also in Theravada, they have the Buddha. He left lists of things that are important, and one of them was right effort. And he had all these lists about how to do it. And in retreats, they talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, they teach all the lists. And after so many retreats, of course, it became part of my being somehow. And even now, I don't connect the meditation or the whole practice with relaxing. It's a bit strange for me now when I talk about it, because I hear people always looking for this relaxation through meditation. And actually, for me, never worked like that, never.
Right. But at that time, you were as you were, and so the practice was not making you particularly relaxed, but obviously it gave you a certain peacefulness, otherwise you wouldn't have continued. And,
Yeah,
and in
probably.
that way, it was relaxing your mind.
Yeah.
You didn't have the concept of relaxing, but to some degree you still relaxed more and more, because otherwise you wouldn't have done it on and kept on doing it. But the meditation in itself for you was rather make an effort. And
Well, not make an effort, but sometimes I definitely didn't like it.
yes.
Yeah, I didn't fight it, but yeah.
Yeah, you said before when people were talking about their blissful experience that well, your meditation was not blissful; it was work.
Yeah, I can
Right.
say
It was more
I was always
that after that you became aware. It did something, and the nice experience came rather out of meditation. That's what you said another time. But
probably.
right, the right effort and learning to relax is not a contradiction. So it's not that we have to make an effort and the effort in order to achieve something. The effort is to counteract all the efforts that we are consciously and unconsciously making from being in our natural state. And so sometimes more efforts are needed because we are in a period where we keep on creating all those obstacles. The sadhana is not really to attain something, the sadhana is to remove the obstacles of being in your natural state. And as we are making lots of efforts to be unnatural out of habit, so it needs an effort to at all have the courage to go that way. And then some meditations try from the beginning to be rather relaxed and peaceful, like rather a bit new agey type. And then there is the danger that one just learns to sweet dream on a certain level and not become very conscious. But then the opposite also, if there is too much painful effort, then one can miss the point that actually what you are looking for is here now, and it's full of joy and beauty. And some people can become quite bitter, just being just tense and making efforts. And one has to find a bit the way in between. But as one goes on, the idea of having to make effort to be natural slowly, slowly is getting less necessary because it comes naturally to be natural. And then all that is needed is to keep that alertness up, and from there the experience will unfold by itself.
So there are many of the concepts or ideas like emptiness and not me, like let's say in a short way, and also were supporting me more actually when I understood this, when I started understanding these concepts to the depth, really.
Yes.
But I think that came after a long retreat.
Yes. It
Oh,
helps in that direction, that it through meditating you're getting insight and become clearer, because there are less thoughts that are always disturbing in all directions, and then suddenly you become aware that of teachings of a deeper, subtle meaning that before what you were aware before.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I think we leave it at that for today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me come just a minute back to where I started. I said there is so much fear. And the tendency to get sucked into that fear is tremendous, because so many things are happening that are justifying the fear. And then how not to get into the fear in the context what we just talked. It seems to be an effort then not to get sucked into fear. And for moments, when the emotions come strong, it is possible that we need to make an effort, just stop. But then it's more a matter of consciousness, of being aware, of seeing what's happening. And when we see what's happening, we see how we are hurting ourselves with certain actions or emotions. For example, fear. If we are hooking into it and going with it, if we learn to see it, to observe, then it's not a big effort. The effort is to remind ourselves to continue until it becomes natural, and then it becomes more and more playful, effortless. We can live our life playfully making efforts, because on a physical level we cannot live without effort. We have to get up in the morning, it's already an effort. Just to move the body from point A to point B is an effort. So we cannot live in this human appearance without effort, but we can learn to make the efforts that help us to be self-conscious. And then do the efforts playfully to express that inner beauty. And to fight against the emotion, we need not do that with grinding our teeth and making effort to control emotions like fear. See it, let it be there, observe it, be just aware what's going on, and then the detachment comes all by itself. And we need not go on trying to force something with a terrible effort. Go about it playfully. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.